Hello and welcome to Loaded Mag. We all know what day it is. We're not going to play the zebra. Don't worry. Don't worry. Yeah, we're back. I know Pete and Chris were on last night on Loaded Mag Away Days and catch up on that show if you haven't seen it. It was a great show. I actually watched it during the day today. Very good show, and the boys from Watford were sound as well. Some nice little topics there in that, a few little gems. But tonight we're joined by, we've had Lee from Newcastle Fans TV on, so we thought we'd bring on the real talent from the show. Forget Lee. And if you're listening, Lee, I just saw that on Twitter that you got your seat sorted out. Spotted that before there, so that's good news. But here's Sam. And
hello.
Welcome, boys.
Evening, lads.
Evening.
Yeah, evening, everybody.
Great to have you on, lads. And I know we're going to have to talk about Newcastle tonight, lads. I know you really want to talk about the Ryder Cup. And Johnny, you still haven't switched off the telly.
I have switched off the time. You can see the reflection in the windows of the
I joke.
God, there you go.
All right, lads. No, I just want to ask you, first of all, how did you get started in Newcastle Fans TV? I used to watch your show an awful lot in the early days, and I remember seeing you on it, Johnny, and I know you're a new face to it, Sam. Well, a new face in the last couple of years, year or two. But how did you get started in it? So who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. And it was about, I'm trying to think how many years ago it is now, nearly 3 years ago now, actually. It was a big transformation with the channel. A few presenters left, and I think it was just kind of Lee that was the only presenter there. And I just thought, well, I'll ask him, and if he says no, he says no. If he says yes, then great. And fortunately, he said yes at the time, and Sam will probably say unfortunately now. But no, it was just from there, really. But if someone said to me back then, I think it was 2019 or 2018. Yeah, 2018, sorry. What would go and do as a channel, I wouldn't believe them. And then, obviously, Milner came along and then added, I don't know, some would say a knowledgeable opinion. Some would say nonsense. Some would say other things. But, yeah, it's kind of escalated from there. But, no, it's for I'll say for 99.9% of the time, it's been absolutely brilliant.
Cool, great. You're happy with it, so that's good. Sam, same question.
So it's a bit of a strange one, and I never thought I'd be involved in anything like this because I'd never watched any sort of fan media or anything like that ever before, because I thought it was all just like the clips you see on Twitter of AFTV, which I just not for me. So I never watched anything Newcastle based. I'd never heard of anything. I'd never heard of NFTV. But all of a sudden, I was doing the washing up one day, and I think we'd just been tonked by Leicester. And the old NFTV radio show on a Sunday night popped up the top of my feed. I thought I'll give it 5 minutes, see what the crack was, and it wasn't AFTV. So I thought, oh, this is good. So yeah, and I remember one of the lads. That's very true. Fun fact. I'll tell you that story later about standing outside the Emirates. So I remember the lads like Johnny and Lee were asking on the show, like, "Oh, if you ever want to be involved and whatnot, let us, give us a shout." Never thought anything of it, and then I don't know who the lad was, and I don't want to. And it's a good job because I don't want to name names, but like they did have someone on. And he was rubbish, and I thought I can do better than that. And then I was going up for one because I'm in the Midlands. I was going up for the Bournemouth home game where we won 2-1, and I thought, right, I'll stay for the weekend, and I'll volunteer to come on, sort of thing. So did the radio show, really good fun. Got speaking to Lee, started writing a few articles. Then I said, kind of flippantly, I could double your Twitter following in a year. Which I wish I hadn't have said. And then it kind of went from there, really. All of a sudden, I was running the Twitter page, and before lockdown, I was due to go to like 3 games before the birth of my second child. But then lockdown happened, and all of a sudden, me and Johnny are starting our own spin-off podcast, and I'm sat in front of Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand and Nobby Solano and whoever, and sat in Sir John Hall's house. So it's been mental, really, but yeah, it's been a really fun experience so far.
Cool. No, that's deadly. Yeah, and there's a bit, I suppose, similar for us. Like, I know myself, I just ever said I'd go on one show on Steve Wraith's channel, and then kind of took off from there. And then we started our own channel, and yeah, it's still new to us, but yeah, we're not doing too bad so far. Yeah, and so you mentioned Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand. So what's it like to go in front of one of the legends and talk and ask the questions you want to ask and do a bit of research, and so you're asking something that's knowledgeable, and what's that feeling like? We haven't done anything like that yet.
Well, neither's Johnny in front of Alan Shearer.
Rub it in.
6 minutes. I'll see when that came in.
I just text him that every week. It's scheduled. Yeah, it's a bizarre one. I just thought originally, leading into lockdown, I just thought, well, this is what we should be doing. It just kind of seemed logical to me. It is extremely difficult booking guests, and it is the hardest thing, I think, to do is be consistent in booking guests. So how me and Johnny have pulled 61 shows out of our arse is ridiculous. It's with the Shearer one, I had half an hour's notice. So Alan had time now, and I was like, okay. So it was quickly set the stream up, do everything, because it was to do with his foundation draw as well. If you remember last year, he did that fantastic prize draw. So he did a few. We weren't the only ones to get him. He was everywhere. But yeah, I had half an hour's notice, so I wanted to get a few other questions in as well, aside from the charity draw stuff, which was brilliant. So yeah, and then sent him the link, and then you're waiting on StreamYard, as we all do, and then you see in that little box at the bottom, Alan Shearer come on, and you think, oh, and how do you compose yourself? Because all you want to tell him is how much you love him. But I and whilst I was waiting, I was so nervous as well. It's one of the only real times I was nervous, and Carl from our channel as well, bless him, was in there talking to me, and I was so blunt and so not nasty, but I was just like, look, mate, just fuck off and leave me alone. I just need to come back.
Yeah, you're panicking at that stage, I imagine.
Yeah, I just need 5 minutes to gather my thoughts. I would have got everything and it blah 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 blah. So, but yeah, sorry, Carl. But yeah, I was so blunt with it. But yeah, but it all went well, even though my internet cut out halfway through, which wasn't awkward at all.
He doesn't mention that too much. Thankfully,
in the text, Johnny, he never mentions that. No, never. He sends every week now.
It's ridiculous. Me and Johnny were talking to Nobby Solano one day. He's at his mom's house in Peru, and his Wi-Fi is better than mine. So we were none the worse off, and we got through it. Lee edited it magnificently, and it was good. But we've been so lucky, so lucky. I mean, not just the ex-players, but I think with me and Johnny is like we were saying before with the golf. We're just sports fans, all-round sports fans. We're interested in all sides of things. So even having whether it's a commentator like Peter Drury on, or a cricket legend like Steve Harmison on, something like that, I think it's really interesting. And even the ones that you don't think are going to be that good, I say that good, but even the kind of smaller names, if you want. For instance, last week we had Anth Young on, who's a Newcastle-based stand-up comedian. We were in tears, in a good way. Laughing. It was so funny. It was a fantastic show. So it was really, really good. So yeah, it's good crack.
Yeah, we had similar kind of experience, but to a lesser degree with bands. When we started off, we did a load of Football Weekly, and we did a lot of bands on. And some of the bands were going, oh, I don't know, half of us liked their music, half of us didn't, maybe. And but yeah, we ended up having the crack with them, and it turned out to be some of the best shows as well. So, but yeah, we have to have an ex-player on at some stage. Lads, before we leave, just kind of the initial startup and Newcastle Fans TV, any other questions you want to ask the guys on that topic?
Not from me, no. Pete?
No.
How's it working? How is it working alongside Lee? Is he challenging for you, or is he does he run you down into the ground, or is it very much you guys are working together like, sort of as a team?
Do you know what it is? Like I can't speak for Sam, but we've in particular, I would say I've been working with Lee for nearly 3 years, more or less 3 years now. People can say whatever they want about him, but that lad loves Newcastle United so much. And I mean, when I say he loves it so much, we played Arsenal Monday Night Football. We had Rafa Benitez as manager, and we lost 2-0. We didn't play very well at all. And we did all the fan cams like we used to do back in the day. We didn't leave London until about probably 1:45 in the morning. He had work at 9 o'clock the next morning, drove up through the night, stopped at a couple of service stations to edit the videos, probably had an hour's sleep, did an 8-hour shift, and was absolutely physically knackered. He was absolutely he was gone. When I say back in the day, before maybe Sam and maybe the new lads came in, he was doing probably 6-7 hours a day on everything in regards to the channel, on top of what he was doing with his other job. So his love for the club, and I'm not just talking about the first team, I'm talking about the under-23s, the women's team, the foundation, everything with regards to Newcastle United, absolutely loves and adores. Look, at times, he probably wants a little bit more from everybody, but that's just from like any person that wants a channel or a business or anything to grow. I suppose you can say maybe he wants it a little bit more from everybody, but without Lee, me and Sam wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. So, like I said, I can't speak for Sam, but I'm extremely grateful because we definitely have the chance to speak to your John Halls, your Solanas, etc., without creating Newcastle Fans TV up to a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, as Johnny said there, Lee's work ethic is ridiculous. And he's constantly pushing. In fact, how the Greenwood and Mulliner show started was Lee was desperate for a show for NFTV Extra to try and get that kind of going, because it was a channel dedicated to the under-23s, which is a bit of a niche. So then I had the idea of that just to get it was originally like local sports stars to come on. So like our first few shows was like Callan Ridge from PDC Darts and so on and so forth. Joseph Craig, who was Paralympic gold medalist in London. And then it kind of snowballed from there. But like that, Lee kind of laid down that challenge. But apart from that, it's total bellend.
I don't think he could be in the chat.
No, he's not. He's saying we've never had a crossword. We have disagreements, but like not in a bad way. It's fine.
You know what? I didn't realize how much he put into it until he actually came onto our show and he talked about it. You guys have mentioned it as well, the under-23s, the NUFC women's football as well. He is invested in every corner of this club, and he really does commit his time. And it was interesting to see, because I bumped into you guys after the really briefly after the Burton game. I saw you guys just about to set up, and I had a quick hello. And he's so focused. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how you guys do it, because when I'm at an away game, I'm just focused on the game, just purely focused on watching every kick, every movement of the player. Like, I'm singing, I'm dancing, and may have had 1 or 2 drinks.
We saw it on Match of the Day, Pete. We saw it.
1 or 2 drinks, just sometimes. But for you guys to be so focused on You know, if any little thing happens, you know, getting the right reaction, getting the right spot in terms of your recordings and stuff. You know, it's non-stop. So it's not just about the enjoyment of the game. You guys, it's the bigger pictures, everything that comes with it. So, you know, absolutely, you know, hats off to you guys for the work that you're doing.
That's all Lee with the vlog stuff. I remember bumping into you, Pete. I didn't realise how much of an absolute tank you were. I think if we hugged, I'd feel safe.
Maybe. God. But no, it's you know, just to see that as it's going on. I remember, you know, I see Joe Burton game again. Joe Linton scores. I'm just there with my mates, going absolutely mad. Lee's there trying to get the clip in the right little spot, and it works out perfectly because he gets the right clip. It goes on social media. It absolutely like blows up. It's the perfect clip, and that's not my first thought. My first thought when the ball hits the back of the net, he just goes mad as possible. Grab whoever's around me. You probably would have saw that on Match of the Day at Old Trafford. I just grabbed the closest person to me, and I'm just going mad. But his first thought is,
it felt safe.
Maybe a little bit scared, a little bit unsure, but they felt safe. It's just like the thought process that goes into it to get that stuff right in the middle of the game and the emotion and everything that comes with supporting the club at a live match day. I just, you know what, fair play to you guys. It's spot on.
I have another question, lads, and I was going to leave this later on, but I'll bring it up now since we're still in and we're talking about Lee. He's not a bad keeper. This game, I went and I was doing a bit of research. No, I actually enjoyed the game. I watched the clips from your own channel and I watched it from the Sunderland channel as well. But yeah, a good day out here. And Johnny, were you wearing Joe Linton's boots that day?
I tell you what, I'd love to be getting paid when he's getting paid. Do you know what it is? Like, take away the fact that probably on another day I could have scored a couple of goals, but it was a fantastic day. Like, I can't speak highly enough of, you know, we're all black and white, of course we are, but you know, even the red and whites on the day, it was fantastic. It was for the Be a Game Changer campaign, which is obviously supporting men's mental health. And we had like a little presentation before we played football at the Beacon of Light, which, you know, is absolutely brilliant. The actual facility, it's huge. And
it looked well, yeah.
It's on the doorstep of the Stadium of Light. And it's actually, I was a bit jealous in the sense that why have Newcastle not got that? Now, we've obviously spoken to Steve Baharrell, who on a Green and Mull on the show, and he has ideas to do something similar. But this is still going to be probably another 2 years before it gets finished. So it was a fantastic facility that we used, and you know, we're going to probably try and do. That was just for an awareness game, just to trying to get more people to, if they had any issues, you know, to come forward and express those. But I think we'll probably do more of a financial side where we'll raise money for another game. But the actual
Johnny, we've sorry to interrupt you. We've got the numbers scrolling across the bottom as well. Be a Game Changer 85258, confidential 24, our hotline, the free service text anywhere in the UK. So yeah, Richie and Martin, who's also on this channel, they had Steve Burrell on the show there last week, I think it was. It was actually, if anyone hasn't watched it, the final score is Newcastle 3, Sunderland 2. It was a good game to watch, actually. The Sunderland keeper pulled off some nice saves, I must say, as well as Lee. The Lee was all for show, all for the camera. Some of those cat-like saves that he pulled off as well.
I was trying to get Sam involved, but he said he had to work.
I was stuck at work. I was stuck at work. I would love to have played because, I mean, fair play, you still won without your best player. So,
who's the best player? That's all I know.
And to be fair, I would have ended up throttling Ramsey because that boy does not pass.
Oh. He does not pass. Yeah, I saw that in the game. I was like, the amount of times he could have laid it off. He's good,
Can I just put it out there? He's a lovely, lovely lad, Mike Ramsey. I've got a lot of time for him, but I honestly could have broke his neck on Sunday. Honestly, there's a couple of highlights. I'm just thinking, oh yeah, he does pass the ball to me, but he could have passed me about 30. I'm not even exaggerating, 30 seconds beforehand. But No, he'll just say, "Well, I scored the winner." So I'll give him. I'll let him off because we won the game. But no, it was fantastic. It was a fantastic day. We all had a pint afterwards, and we all just got on well, and it was really, really brilliant. So like I say, I'm still texting Phil, who was he's the Sunderland the head of NUFC Fans TV. So we get on pretty well for considering he's a Macklin and I'm a Geordie. But yeah, as you can see, we've got the flag there as well. So it was a brilliant day.
Cool. No, that was good, and it was enjoyable to watch it. It looked like great fun, actually, lads. Bit of crack. Okay, let's talk shop. Let's go back to basics. Let's talk about Bruce and his press conference today in the lead up to the game tomorrow. Actually, who's going to the game tomorrow? I know, Pete, you're going to the game. Anyone else going to the game? No,
working a wonderful 14-hour shift, but yeah, at Wolves the week after.
Nice one. So can you see? Okay, in the game at against Leeds, he mixed it up. Or sorry, I should say, Graham Jones mixed it up and switched from the 5 at the back to 4. Do you think he'll stick with that going into the game tomorrow? Thoughts? Anyone on that?
I personally, he should go 4 at the back, but I think if you offered him a point right now, I think he'd take it. And some would say if you're going to go that negative, you'll go 5 at the back. But he was saying that it worked in the second half against Leeds, but we didn't win the game, and that was probably the most frustrating thing last week. Is that we had a couple of chances near the end, like St. Maximin. How important St. Maximin is to Newcastle is absolutely frightening when Callum Wilson's not available. Yeah. But no, I think it'll be a tough game tomorrow. I think Watford are not a bad team when you look at the actual team on paper. They're starting 11 on paper.
I think they'll be fine as well. I think
me and you both agree with that, don't we? So, but I think they've got a good spine. Watford. You look across the actual. The defence, the midfield, the strike. They've got a kind of 1 or 2 players. You look, actually, they're not too bad. Like your Tom Cleverleys, Musa Sissoko, Josh King, Ismail Assar. Ismail Assar's like our Alan St. Maximin, isn't he? He's that kind of player that you expect to do something with a bit of if you've got time and space.
No, you mentioned it, Johnny. I grabbed this. Here's comparing both of them. Has St. Maximin scored 2 goals? I know he scored 1. Has he scored 2? I don't remember the second one.
Scored against Leeds and
he scored the what we thought was the winner against the Southampton.
Southampton, that was it. Yeah. Okay, that's where the 2 came from. Yeah. So they are similar in stats wise. But yeah, you want ASM in your team all day long. But it also depends.
Difference is. Sarr is there not to be your out-and-out goal scorer, whereas at the moment St. Maximin is for us whilst Wilson's injured, because they've got Emmanuel Dennis, who was a fantastic piece of business, and Josh King as well, whereas we've got Joe Linton on the left, Maximin's kind of in the centre, sort of, Dwight Gale's on the bench, and then, of course, you got young Dylan Stevenson, who scored 6 and 6 for the under-23s, who doesn't get a look in, but I don't know. It's not a game I'm particularly looking forward to. I don't know. Maybe we need to get Fabrice Pancrat back. And,
he loves a Watford goal. He loves his Watford. The only goal he scored. But look, we don't travel well to Vicarage Road at all. You guys have already said it. I think there's a high possibility that we go 4 at the back, purely because we're running out of centre backs. I think we've only got 3 fit at the moment. So I think from that point of view, they have really no choice but to go 4 at the back. However, it proved that it worked against Leeds. It doesn't mean it's going to work against Watford. And you never quite know what team you're going to get and what performance you're going to get with Newcastle. And this is the biggest problem that we've got. This is the problem that we've had with Steve Bruce for quite a long time now, in that we don't know what to expect from this team. There's no identity. There's no style of play. You are literally turning up on a Saturday at 3 p.m. as I'm going to do tomorrow, and not knowing what you're going to get from this team at all. And that's a big worry for me. It's a big worry in a game that's massive. So you guys have already touched on it already. Alan Saint-Maximin's our lifeline. He is our striker who's not a striker effectively. He's playing up front as the last man because we haven't got anyone else, and because Bruce clearly doesn't trust him in his defensive duties. He's not a defensive winger. So that's why he plays the furthest forward. So we are heavily reliant on him. Now, he's not a massive goal scorer, but he has come up with big moments in recent weeks. So we are kind of depending on him. And with their back line, their defensive line, you know, we may get some joy there, but we've got to worry about them going the other way, like you guys have touched on as already, Sam and Jonny. You know, Ishmael Assar is an absolute talent. They did so well to hold on to him last season in the Championship. I thought he was a goner. You know, Leicester were linked with him. You know, I thought he was going to go to a top club and play up there, but they did well to keep hold of him. And let's be honest, if you look at the balance of the season, it was a surprise that Watford got relegated. I don't think anyone would have expected Watford to get relegated in the season they did. So them coming up is not going to be like a Norwich where you expect them to be in and around it. They're going to come up and expect to stay up because they've had a number of years in the Premier League. So this is going to be a tough game. They've got absolute pace. As we've said about Sarr, Emmanuel Dennis, Musa Sissoko is still rapid, even in his 30s. They're going to really, really look to put it on us, particularly on the counter-attack if we throw men forward. And that's going to be our biggest problem, is that, you know, if we're throwing men forward to get a goal, our recovery runs and the way in which we set up defensively needs to be good. So, you know, I am a little bit worried about this game. I think we need to match them personally, pace for pace. I fully expect Jamal Lewis to play. I don't know what you guys think about that. You know, if you're looking at the pace that they've got on the wings, Jamal Lewis has to play because he's athletically able to withstand that and actually match them. You know, if we've got Richie playing down on their left-hand side, they're going to have an absolute field day. Absolute field day. In fact, the guys on the pod last night, the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes Watford podcast, they mentioned and they actually talked about the matchup between Sarr and Richie and it being an absolute mismatch. So, you know, we're expecting our manager to see that, but is he really going to? Is he really going to see that? History proves that he's going to go with Richie and it's going to be an absolute shit show. But, you know, what do you guys think?
I must admit, Pete, I was going to say, Pete, when you were talking about Jamal Lewis, I was thinking exactly the same. Sarr he'll basically tear Richie a new one if he plays up against him tomorrow. I do think they'll go for the back, exactly like you said. Probably nice to see possibly Fernandez and Shaw. I think Clark didn't seem overly great the last few times he's played, so it might be just best to keep him as a backup. I think it's a prime opportunity to, especially with the players that we've got out, to go to that formation we were talking about last week, where you have the 4-2-3-1. You know, you could play Hayden and Longstaff in the middle, play Almiron behind ASM, and put Jolit on the left, and you know, either go Murphy or Fraser on the right. You know, there's some pace in that team, give them problems as well. And they've got stuff to worry about, and obviously we've got Lewis with the pace to hopefully deal with Sarr. And one other good thing we haven't got Troy Deeney, who seemed to be our the good luck charm against us in the past. So that's one good thing that we don't have to worry about tomorrow. But Jonny, what do you think?
I have to be honest, I disagree with playing Fabian Schär as a 2 in the centre half. You can't trust him. You can't trust Fabian Schär as a 2 at the back. If you're going to play him at the back, you need to play 3. But I don't want us to play 3, so you can't find a place for him, unfortunately, this weekend. If I was going to go for it, I'd go Darlow and goal, I'd go Manquillo right back, I'd go Fernandez for experience more than anything else, and probably Kieran Clark just because he's a left foot centre half and on that left hand side. But again, I'm not really comfortable with him. But he's probably one of the only options we've got on that left hand side.
I think this would have been the ideal situation to have Dummett fit to play.
100%. But We also talked about we need Jamal Lewis back in at left back. I can't remember really defensively having many good games. Now you can put Richie at left back, or you can put Jamal Lewis at left back. I'd still fancy my chance of Ismail Assar, because none of them are really good enough, if we're being brutally honest. Richie, I don't think is a natural left back or a natural left wing back. He's been put there because, he's doing slightly better than Jamal Lewis, and Jamal Lewis is really out of form. Jamal Lewis played the cup game against Burnley, and the first half was absolutely atrocious. He was petrified to take Burnley's fullback on. This is Burnley we're talking about. Burnley, a team that are probably going to be battling us for the relegation.
To throw a curveball at you, Johnny, would you put Danny Rose if we still had him in there?
He was just as poor when he was here, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I remember having an argument with 40. Pete's one of Pete's mates, who just literally, we were talking about for 15 minutes about Danny Rose and how poor he was. I agree with Shelby. I agree with Longstaff and Hayden in the midfield. Joe Linton on the left. Yeah, I thought he was good last week. I have to be honest, I thought he was good against Leeds. It's probably one of the better showings we've seen of Joe Linton. But I want Ryan Fraser on that left-hand side. Ryan Fraser is a left winger. If you're playing 4-2-3-1, get him on that left-hand side. Let him have a go at Watford's defence, because Fraser just needs to be unleashed. I don't want him playing as a number 8 in the centre where he does fuck all. Get him on the left-hand side. I'd probably put Murphy on the right, if I'm honest, and I'd put Mickey behind St. Maximin, but I don't like St. Maximin as the main focus. I know because Wilson's there and Wilson's out, it has to be done, but I would be wanting ASM. Sorry?
It doesn't have to be done, does it? You could, like the comment says,
put Gale there, couldn't you, I suppose?
You could put Gale there, and then I agree with what you say about Fraser as well, because if you put him on that left-hand side, he will track back and help out, which ASM wouldn't do, which is why I'd stick him on the right, and then maybe behind Gale, personally. But, go on, please.
Sorry, I was going to say, Sam, I think we need as many creative players on the pitch as possible. We need players to create chances. Ryan Fraser, it has the ability to get us a goal. Alan St. Maximin has the ability to get us a goal. The fact that we've lost Joe Willock, who could get us a goal as well. We need someone that's going to get us a goal. With all due respect, Joe Linton on the left-hand side, he might do a job, but he's not necessarily going to get you a goal or even look like getting you a goal. He does a job, and I think he did a job against Leeds in the way that he played. I thought he was bullish. I thought he was big and strong. I thought he held up the ball well. He kept things ticking over.
Should have buried that chance, yeah.
Yeah, straight in front of.
And that goes back to the point. You're absolutely right, Sam, in that, when you want those players to come up with the big moments and put the ball in the back of the net, he doesn't do it. Ryan Fraser, given the opportunity, now it goes back. This is a year-long argument now, in that he hasn't had a run of games. He's fit. He's trained a week. Play him. We've got players injured at the moment. He should be starting for us. He's not a bad player. He just needs a run of games, and there's no better opportunity to play him. You mentioned about Johnny. You mentioned about playing Murphy. Was that at right back, or was that further up the pitch?
No, that's further up, mate. Further up. We've made Sam be discussing right backs for about God knows how long, and we're never going to be happy until we get a proper replacement. But Jacob Murphy, I've always thought Jacob Murphy's better going forward. Look, defensively in a back five, he will do, because we have seen elements that he can do a job there. In a back four, we saw against Leeds away last year. I think Sam used his first half as a capitulation, if I remember rightly, and I can't really disagree with that. But look, I would like Murphy a bit further forward because he's direct. He will. I fancy Jacob Murphy against Danny Rose.
Yeah,
I really would.
Come on, leaps and bounds, Murphy. He's improved so much. Fair play to him.
Yeah, I know we've had like disagreements at right back, but we just need a win. It doesn't matter who plays tomorrow. We just desperately need a win. But I feel like it's a double-edged sword because everybody wants Bruce out, or 99%. 99% of Newcastle fans want Steve Bruce out. But we also want to see the team do well. We want to see the team pick up points. But if you say, I'll take another couple of defeats for Steve Bruce to leave, we could be in a situation where we're 6 or 7 points behind teams that are 16th and 17th. We need points on the board. And we need I'll be looking at 4 points for the next 2 games. We need a big away win. Wolves aren't that great. Watford are going to be down there. We need 4 points, as simple as that. But I don't know. I don't know if you were encouraged, lads, last week against Leeds, but we still had a lot of defensive worries, and that was what really was the biggest worry out of everything last week. Is that yes, we could have had chances and we could have scored a couple more goals, and we didn't take our chances. But defensively, especially in the first half, Leeds could have scored 2 or 3.
And especially that just right before halftime, if you remember, Richie, we were doing Match Day Live, and there was I don't know what was going on, and right in front of the goal, I think it was when they changed formation, and they were just all over the place. And Leeds had about 3 attempts to try and score, but yeah, we were lucky to go in 1-1 at that stage. But
that's where we commented though, Daz, where it looked as though the message hadn't got across again from when there was a change in the formation. There seemed to be all 6s and 7s, and nobody was going to the ball. I know exactly which bit you were talking about, Daz, and it was just horrendous defense. It was like, let's try and give them as much time as they want around the 6-yard box, just have a free shot. Nobody was making an effort to get a tackle in or anything. It was horrendous. But I said to you on the half time, it'd be nice to see how they come out after the break, and sure enough, they were a lot more organised defensively, seemed sound. And to be fair, I think we were much better team in the second half. So we just need, if we're doing like an in-game change, we need to be on the ball straight away and not wait until a natural break where they've got long enough to get the talk over, which was the only thing I think we both picked up on during the game last week.
You know that point that they nearly scored right before half time. I think that for me said a lot. That opportunity arising, because if you look, it came off the back of us actually pressing forward to try and nick a goal before half time. They caught us on the counter attack. Now, the amount of guys that we had forward at that time in which they broke on us should never have happened right before half time. If you're a manager worth your salt, right, you would have been able to see that on the pitch. The fact that the likes of Mankilio and numerous players had pushed themselves forward. Right on half time, right, you need to make sure that you're solid at the back and you've got guys sitting in to make sure you don't get counter-attacked the way you did. And the fact that happened just shows me that there's a lack of communication on the pitch between the players. There's a lack of communication from the manager to the players, and there's a lack of communication from the manager to the coaches to the players. So there's a distinct lack of communication across the team, and it all came out in that movement there. The fact that we were pushing, we were going gung-ho effectively, and it was only half time. It wasn't like it was 90th minute and we're trying to claw back, a goal to make it 1-1. It was at half time, and we got caught and really should have got punished for it. You're absolutely right, and it just shows the amount of the lack of sort of organisation and the lack of care. And I think the book stops with the manager on that.
I think it takes us quite this question that Carl's put on about what do we think of Graham Jones. I think one of the fact that going back to last week's game as well, when they changed the formation, the tactics, when Richie was over there and Bruce and Jones were together, Richie was transfixed on Graham Jones listening to them. You could see Steve Bruce just trying to get in and get his little, but he was, Richie was just, looking to take every single word of Graham Jones was having to say about the formation. So I think it pretty much says that he's the person driving it from behind the scenes, really. But obviously Bruce doesn't like that as much. But obviously the players respect Jones more. What do you think, Dave? Sorry, Pete.
There were 3 incidences in the game against Leeds where Bruce and Jones were speaking to players. 1, there was Matt Ritchie. 2, there was Isaac Hayden. And 3, there was Jamal Lascelles. Every single one of them had the same body language. Every single one of them pretty much gave off the same message. They were very much side on to Steve Bruce, so they were facing away from him, and they were all facing towards Graham Jones. When both Bruce and Graham Jones are talking, they're only listening to one man, and that's Graham Jones. And I think on all 3 incidences, it was quite evident that Bruce cottons on to the fact that they're not listening to him and stops talking, and in one sense takes a step back. That, for me, the fact that the Sky cameras caught that is like, you know, that tells you everything. That tells you everything. Sky, Carragher, Neville, you know, whoever on TalkSport, all these media and pundits can make it up as much and kind of dress it up as whatever they want regarding Steve Bruce. Those 3 clips there on Friday night told us everything we need to know about Steve Bruce as manager of Newcastle United. The players don't want him. The players don't listen to him. The players don't necessarily care about him. I don't care what other people say about what they feel about Steve Bruce at the club. They don't care about him, and they don't want him as manager of that club, and they don't listen to him. And when you've got a manager that the players don't listen to, it's an absolute recipe for disaster, right? If it wasn't for Graham Jones changing tactic and going to 4 at the back, right, we would have ended up losing 3 or 4-0. Like that would have been an absolute banker. The fact that he changed that, brought Hayden into midfield, made us push further forward, gave St. Maximin a little bit more license, got us back into the game.
Just want to get in there as well to Carl, not on this question, but the previous question. First of all, Carl, Cobra Kai, it's coming soon, buddy. I know we're both Cobra Kai fans, so just get that in there. But yeah, just maybe to even take it forward, and we talk about Bruce out and blah blah blah, but Graham Jones is a coach. I could see if Bruce was gone tomorrow, or tomorrow evening after the match or something like that, that I think I could see Mike Ashley put in Graham Jones in there as manager, but he's not a manager. It didn't work out previously with him for Luton, but excellent coach, and delighted we have him. So yeah, that's, I think, across the board we're all happy with Graham Jones. Why wouldn't we be?
What does Sam and Johnny think of what Carl's put for the second part of the question? What's your thoughts on that one?
Carl knows full well what I think. He's deliberately trying to wind me up.
It might be working in a second.
No, it won't. Look, Graham Jones is a coach. He's not a manager. He's a very good coach. John Carver was a very good coach and horrendous manager. And I think Graham Jones will be the same. It's a tale as old as time. Brian Kidd was the same. Sammy Lee was the same.
Steve McLaren. Oh, joy. Yeah, it is what it is. If I don't buy into this, if we lose, it's Bruce's fault. If we win, it's Jones's fault. It makes me feel very uncomfortable and very cringy. But it is what it is. Something's obviously not working. My biggest bugbear is just Bruce just doesn't learn from his mistakes, and this has been going on from the start. There comes a time in a manager's career where, you know, it's time to draw sticks and kind of knock it on the head. And to be fair, it seems like Newcastle is the place to do that because it happened with Souness and a few others. But he fully knows what he's doing. We were talking about it on the watch along on Friday. Yeah, I don't want. I mean, obviously Graham Jones would be fine if Bruce got sacked as on a caretaker basis for a couple of 3 games. I do not want him anywhere near the manager's job. I'd love to keep him on as a coach. Fantastic coach, great reputation. We saw that when he, was part of the England setup. Brilliant, great. That's the only chance a Newcastle representative has anywhere near a chance of getting a call up from England. But yeah, I think if a change is going to happen, which, let's face it, we all know it's not going to happen, Jones isn't the man to take over on a permanent basis.
The only one thing I'd add to that is with Graham Jones. I can ask anybody, does anybody like this 5-3-2 formation that we've got at the minute?
It serves a purpose.
It's a yes or no question.
Do you like it?
Okay.
Depending who we're playing.
No, I don't like it. We don't score enough goals.
He was the one that started that, Pete. He was the one that started that formation that we all hate. Let's be brutally honest.
But this is the argument. Well, you say that, You say that, but he didn't, because we were playing that formation before lockdown, before the coronavirus kicked in. We were playing
No, I think there was a few subtle differences.
Okay, but roughly the formation was still the same. He's put the touches on it to create.
In that case, then it was Rafa's formation, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
We'll do it my way. We want to do it. He wants to do it his way now, doesn't he?
It was, because you can argue that Bruce was continuing a Rafa formation, even though in 2019, in every press conference in the back end of 2019, he was telling us how much he hated the formation, but was playing it every week. It was only when he got to, what was it, Southampton, the game before the last Premier League game before coronavirus hit, that he went to 4 at the back. We won 1-0 at Southampton. He then went to 4 at the back. When things went wrong, he went back to 5. You know, Bruce was playing this formation, or this structure of the formation. Yes, there might be subtle differences, but the effective formation was being played way before Graham Jones came in. What Graham Jones changed to it is, like you say, the subtle differences, but it was needed. We were on a run of 21 odd games and only 1 win. Like, we had to have a change. It had to be changed in one way or another. But it goes back to the point. We have a squad of players that was built to play this system through Rafa Benitez. We haven't been in a position to revamp this squad. You know, we've got defenders, like you touched on, and you're absolutely right. I think Johnny mentioned it. Shaw can't play in a 2. He can only play in a 3. He was bought to play in a back 3. Florian Lejeune was bought to play in a back 3.
No.
I'm not
Florian Lejeune's first season, it was 4-2-3-1, and him and Lascelles were superb.
They were very good, but when he got injured, it changed his game. He wasn't able to play in that 2 because he wasn't able to get around the pitch as much. That's just my opinion. But you've got other players that were brought in to play this system because that was through Rafa Benitez. The problem is that any other club after that period would have transitioned a lot of these players out to be able to play a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-2-1 or whatever you want to play. The problem with this club is that we just keep players because we'd rather keep players than sign new ones. And this is the problem we've got. Dwight Gale is a classic example of that. So we're stuck in a rut. And, you know, ultimately it falls with Steve Bruce because he makes that decision. But, you know, with us not being able to sign players, we're stuck in this problem right now. And until something significant changes or these players get shipped out, we're going to continue to shift between 4 at the back and 5 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, because they're the only 2 formations we can play.
What's scary is that these are obviously the best defenders we've had in the modern era and look so solid under Rafa. So solid. That, like, as I said there, first season back, we played 4-2-3-1, Lascelles and Lejeune. Lascelles was on the verge of an England call-up. Lejeune just looked absolute, like filth. Just an absolute, the best defender we've had since Woodgate. And after that, okay, then you add Cher in the mix and play that 5 at the back, which, let's not forget, Rafa converted Richie to left wing back as well. And they looked superb, and now they just look completely useless.
Don't forget about Fernandes as well, because even since Bruce has been there, I would argue that Fernandes has probably been the most consistent centre half that Newcastle have had since Bruce has been head coach. And you know, he could be one that you'd be relying on tomorrow that hasn't played a few games, but you could still almost expect a good performance or a solid performance out of, because he has got that knack of, you know, leading. I would say he's more of a captain than the cells at times. I really do, just by his more of a set an example kind of performance. But you know, I take Sam's point. But I remember a game. I think it was probably the Bournemouth game, Sam. I think we had injuries in defence, and I think our 4th, 5th, and 6th choice centre halves were playing as we played 5 at the back. I think it was Dummett. Who else? Dummett. I think it might have been Dummett. Clark and something weird like that. But you still felt comfortable. We were missing Lascelles, we were missing Lejeune, we were missing, I think, maybe I don't know who it was at the time, but we were missing some would argue the 3 centre halves that we wanted to play that day. And we had those 3 centre halves playing, and we still felt comfortable. and we still felt like, actually, yeah, they're solid enough that we can get a good result out. But that, when you look at it, it's scary enough to think that Leeds only scored 1. On another day, could have been 3 or 4. West Ham has scored 4. Villa scored 2, which probably slightly
a very beatable Villa team as well.
Yeah, we should have done. If Wilson takes his chance, that could have been better. And then Southampton, that first half against Southampton, if Southampton decided to show up, that could have been 3-0 at half time straight away. And obviously, the Man United game, Man United was probably arguably one of the better performances I've had this season.
Yeah, it wasn't a 4-1, was it?
No, I think they just that mistake by Woodman before half time was a killer. It was a killer.
Yeah.
No,
And you raise a good point there as well, Johnny. With Lascelles and Shelby out injured, who will be our captain? Will it be Richie? He's normally our captain on the pitch, being the most vocal anyway. But who will he go for?
It's a good question. I think if Fernandez plays, I think Fernandez will be captain. If it's not Fernandez, like people are umming and ahhing over Richie.
Emil
I think Hayden would be
I would. You know who I'd give it to? I'd give it to Hayden because he's probably guaranteed to play. He's guaranteed to play, whether it be centre half or centre midfield. Who knows where he'll play tomorrow? I don't even think he knows until about probably 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. So I'd probably give it to Hayden because I don't think he's the most vocal in terms of like a leader, but similar to what I mentioned with Fernandez, I think he's more. He
leads by example, doesn't he?
Of course he doesn't. Like I'm a big Isaac Hayden fan. I know there's a couple of fans that don't rate him as highly as I do, but he's consistent. I know he said himself he made a mistake and he was on a Twitter spat on after the Man United game, but he cares. He cares, and you can tell that he's got a bit about him. And we haven't got a lot of talent in our team, but he's always the first name you put in your midfield, above Shelby, above Longstaff, above whoever. In that sort of position, you're going to have him there. But
would have been so easy for him to leave a couple of years ago, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
so easy for him to leave. But he's brilliant. Love Isaac Hayden.
Would any of you guys be against? This is kind of a little bit left field here, really. But would any of you guys be against Anisette Maximin getting the armband?
I personally don't think
Pete's gone for that statement.
He's had enough. He's had enough.
What are you doing? ASM as captain? No way,
He's
Pete.
got enough to do, isn't he?
What? What's wrong with that?
Oh yeah, no.
For example, he's the leader. He's the difference maker. Sometimes that's not the worst thing in the world.
He's the difference maker. He's not the leader, though, is he?
Well, he leads by example on the pitch. He might not necessarily lead in terms of what we in England expect to be a leader, but the fact that he leads by example with his football and his work rate and how hard he works for the team, how much love he gives to the fans, he leaves everything on the pitch. For me, that in a different way is just as much as a leader as it is, someone that G's up the players and gives that English vibe of what leadership should be. There are leaders in very different ways. You could argue, there are a lot of players out there that maybe don't have the leadership skills, the way they talk, the way they G up the players. But when they step on the pitch and they perform, other people follow. If they can see that he's working his socks off and he's trying everything to get this team to win 3 points and to win a game, that can be the catalyst for other players to play the same way. I'm just throwing it out there.
He's a free spirit, isn't he? He's a free spirit, ASM. He just wanted to kind of go on the pitch, do his bit, and come off. But just briefly, I don't know if this was mentioned in the press conference, and no one's really mentioned him. Is Shelby fit? No. Because he was 50-50, or some people say it might be a bit too early for the Leeds game. No one's really mentioned him. It wouldn't surprise me if he was involved tomorrow, because he wasn't really. I don't think he was mentioned in the press conference to be ruled out. The only persons that I heard that were ruled out were Callum Wilson, Lascelles, and Willock. Yeah,
I've never known someone to be injured for as long as Shelby has been with a calf injury. The same with Paul Dummett, who I suppose I heard in pre-season that he also had a calf injury. They've been out for nearly coming on 2 months now, which is ridiculous. Like for a calf injury,
we've got a history of that. Like always history. This goes back years and years and years. I think that apart from under Rafa, ironically, but there just seems to be these all kind of niggling muscle injuries which take an age to clear up. I can remember this happening under Souness, under Bobby, it's just happened forever, and I just don't. It just never. It just seems to be typical Newcastle.
Another one, since you mentioned Shelby, I wonder would he turn up? Is and I know Bruce says that Willock is injured, but it's his toe or something like that. It's the injury, so it seems minor enough. And I think Stu Penman mentioned it tonight on the Matters show that it wouldn't be surprised if he togged out as well. Might be a surprise, a bit of shithousery there by Bruce saying players are injured and then turning up. I'd like to see something like that happen.
I hope so.
We need a bit of that.
I do think he'll be back for Wolves. I don't think it's as long term. I think some of the journalists were saying we probably won't see him until the after the international break. I don't see that. I think he'll be back for Wolves, but I'll tell you what, it wouldn't half give the fans a lift if we got that team sheet at 2:00 tomorrow and had him on it. It wouldn't half give us the lift, particularly the ones in the stadium. They'd be right up for it knowing that he was in the team.
Yeah.
And I think I solved our captain problem and our centre back problem. I think you've probably seen this already this week. But
well, under pressure, that's a very composed penalty, and over the course of the game, they just about deserved it.
The pace of Bruce there is unbelievable. And shout out to Love Machine on Twitter who put that clip out originally. But
for that reason alone, I'm not buying FIFA this year. For that reason alone, FIFA is off the table. I want Pez. Give me Pez all day long. Because they wouldn't make the worst mistake in football gaming history in having Bruce outrun the rest of his squad. Jesus.
I bought FIFA twice. 1997 on the Sega Mega Drive, indoor matches. Yes, please. And 2004, I think, was the last time I bought FIFA. I don't do X-Station box things.
Well, this would be the first time I've not bought FIFA since 1995. I played every single one for everyone every year, apart from this year. Now,
I'm guessing it's never got better than 97 because that just seemed like the epitome.
98 World Cup's the classic.
Yeah.
My brother works in EA Games, Pete. I'll pass this on to fix that glitch, and then you can go buy it, right?
They've lost the customer if not, Daz. They've lost the customer. I ain't purchasing it. Someone gives it me for free, fair enough, but I am not paying my money to have Bruce 91 pace on that game. You're having a laugh.
He was a fantastic centre-back, but even at his peak, he wasn't 91 pace.
No. He should have got an England cap as well.
Yeah.
But we won't pick him up anymore. We are where we are with him these days. But okay, I'm going to take this moment as well, Richie, you might get to say about our channel. If you like what you're seeing or have watching this on playback, make sure you to subscribe on youtube.com/c/loaded HQ. And as the message says at the bottom, where we're trying to hit 1K subs, we're at 750 around that kind of mark, that kind of territory. But subscribe, it helps us. And also I should mention as well, and I am crap at mentioning the sponsors, but shout out to Centre Ale. They have beer. If you like beer, go to them. They will sort you out. Tell them we sent you. And they're in the central station in Newcastle, I believe, from what Martin's description.
Bruce in.
Bruce in. Where are we going next, lads? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. There was a comment in the chat right in the start of Douglas Kerr. Just something that happened this week. It was regards to Simon Zakaria's comments on Twitter.
Oh, yes.
And what was anyone's thoughts on it?
Yeah.
Shoot me.
Looking forward to Wednesday, Sam, are you?
Yes, because we're pre-recording the latest episode of the Greenwood and Mulliner show.
Wow.
But yes, but I mean, look,
What are your thoughts on all of this, guys?
I just want
What
to
are your honest thoughts?
What are my honest thoughts on this? If this takeover was going to happen, it would have happened April 2020 when the Premier League had it in his hands. There's no chances, in my opinion. I don't know anything, but for what I've seen and what I've read, this is not going to happen. If it was going to happen, it would have happened in April 2020. I think people are holding on to Amanda Stavey doing interviews with TalkSport, and she's a woman with the people. Why do that? If you're so confident of getting a takeover done, you don't do interviews with Sky Sports, TalkSport, and ITV Time Tees. That TalkSport interview was an absolute disaster. You literally had Jim White and Simon Jordan on a plate asking you questions and got into a debate. You don't have to do that if you're so confident about a takeover being done. If Amanda Staley can't get this done by herself, she hasn't got the money. She hasn't got the money to do it. She needs help. She tried to get the Saudis in. For whatever reason, the Premier League are just as guilty for being absolute dickheads. That's to put it out there.
There's definitely dodgy dealings going on, isn't there?
Of course there is, and it's just frustrating. I want to take over just as much as the next person. But yeah, Josh, we all go for that coffee tomorrow as well. But
they are Josh. That's you in the middle. If you're confused.
Yeah, no, I'm just sick of it, to be honest. I really am. And there's a lot of ITKs that think that they know everything and track bloody planes and everything. It just gets on my nerves. Just if a takeover will happen, we spoke of Pete Graves a year ago, and he hit the nail on the head. You will wake up one day and you will find out this club has been taken over. And if you literally, that is how it will be done. It won't be done on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, or YouTube. You will wake up, there will be a press release, there'll be somebody holding the Newcastle scarf, the new owner. I don't think we're a million miles away from it, but it'll not be under this ownership or this potential new ownership, because they would have had it done 18 months ago. They're not going to beat the Premier League in a court case, in my personal opinion. I just don't see it happening.
You will know when the takeover has gone through, because you will see me in the background on Sky Sports News with no shirt on, under the Sabobby factory drinking cans. But I more or less agree with Johnny. But the kind of the thing is with it all. Of course, I want to take over. Everyone wants to take over. I don't want to see it played out, because everyone was so invested in it last time, and it was the worst possible timing in many senses, because it was during lockdown 1, the original lockdown, not lockdown with a vengeance, and no one had anything to do. So that was our one and only focus, and the way it was all played out was just so gutting and so emotionally draining. I don't want to. I just rather focus on the depressing shit on the pitch rather than the depressing shit off it, because that's something that's kind of worth talking about. I don't want to hear it until it's done. To be honest, I just don't. That's just personal. It's just.
Sam, with that YouTube video we did, was it the score and the players for the season? You broke the news to me and Lee. We couldn't really do that video, could we? We're heartbroken, more or less.
Yeah.
I watched that, and I also watched the one where you, both of you guys were debating going as if we had the choice, Rafa or Pochettino at the time. Yeah, with the pluses and minuses for both. It was a great video, and we're still with Bruce. It was all fantasy back then.
I wrote articles on the Newcastle Fans TV website about realistic transfer targets should the takeover go through. Oh yeah, let's get Sandro Tonali and Alexander Isak. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, we're signing Jeff Hendrick on a free and playing him up front at Rotherham.
Matty Longstaff stay? That was the big thing.
Will Matty Longstaff stay? Yeah. So it's I don't like takeover stories until it's a headline of Newcastle United sold to blah 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 whoever.
Exactly.
But if we do get relegated, the EFL will let any old fucker in. So
That's true. I know that Johnny's mentioned it about the takeover, and he doesn't think that the current consortium, PCP, PIF, and the Reuben brothers will go through. But were you guys pro Saudi takeover, or were you against it? Like when it was kind of in its height.
I
bought 30 cans of Thatcher's ready for takeover.
I was for it. I really was. I wanted this takeover to happen. Look, you can't not fall in love with the potential,
the dream
to be taken over by probably the richest people in the world or one of the wealthiest people in the world, and all the Premier League clubs added together still wouldn't be as wealthy as the owners that we were potentially going to have. Of course, you were going to fall in love with the idea. But as soon as the Premier League didn't want that deal to happen, it was never going to, like, 16 weeks, 17 weeks, and then Burnley going to take over after about 3 or 4 weeks of it being
a dodgy takeover as well.
Yeah, very dodgy. Their takeover has been brought on by debt, but because Alan Pace isn't worth anywhere near PCP. Look, I do see Saudi Arabia taking over a football club. I really do, because they've held boxing events, they've held WWE events, they've held Formula One races. Yeah. They will get into football because someone will let them in. At the minute, the Premier League won't let them in. Exactly. That's the one thing. That's another thing altogether, isn't it? But the Premier League do not want, or I should say the Premier League, the Big Six do not want that disruption at the minute. They don't want another person joining the party.
I think you'll recall
the Premier League would have had them there, man. The Premier League would have had them there and put through. The Premier League would have thought, if you're just thinking this normally and rationally, in the middle of a pandemic and a crisis, and we're still getting a potential takeover with the people that we're discussing, financially, it makes 100% sense. It's a no-brainer. But for some reason, when you've probably got people on the board, I'm sure one of the people on the board has got something to do with Chelsea. Why would Chelsea want somebody else knocking on the door going, Newcastle are going to get backed by £260 billion behind them? No, we don't anything like that. Do you know what I mean? They've already got, at the minute, you've got Chelsea, City, United, Liverpool. They're the big four at the minute. None of them will want a Newcastle or someone like that knocking on the door with financial muscle behind them. It just doesn't make sense. But hopefully one day something like that will happen.
If you remember, Johnny, as well, when we had a Henry Winter on our show, he said it wasn't just the Big Six; it was the clubs like on the precipice and just below the Big Six that were seriously opposing our takeover as well. So it wasn't just the Big Six; it was. I mean, he alluded to the ones on the precipice, so I would assume that being, your Evertons,
Leicester's,
West Ham's, Leicester's, them kind of clubs.
Sam, you asked a question, though. You asked the question right at the end of that interview. You said, do you think that this takeover will happen between the PIF when we interviewed him? And what did he say? He said, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. So. And then the year before, I interviewed Henry Winter, and it was all like, Newcastle's great. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to change the area. It's going to be a nice, slow build, sustainable, building a football club, reattaching the emotional connection between the owner and fans and the club loving you back. And then, year 1 year later, and there's still no takeover, and you've had a vasectomy.
On that happy note, I guess we'll see what happens during the week, or will we see? I expect that website to crash on Wednesday, and no one will know what's happening. But we'll see. Also, I just want to mention we have a new show coming up. We have a show coming out on Tuesday at 7:00, and it's called Loaded Lifeline. So a few people have been asking, wanted an interactive show on our channel, and we're going to give them this opportunity to come on the show. They can either join us live in the studio on StreamYard, or they can send us a recording, and we'll put up the email address. Actually, I'll show it now in a second. We'll send out all the details on Twitter during the week. And send in a video, and we could play it and discuss the topic people want discussed, football related, could be Newcastle related, or any kind of football related topic. And here is our email address if you're looking for it: loadedhq1@gmail.com. So that's coming up on Tuesday at 7.
Love it.
Anything else, lads, before we draw the night to a close?
Predictions for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to say 1-1 draw.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll go 1-1 as well. I think it'll be a score draw.
It's more hope than reality, but I think we're gonna win 2-1. I think we're gonna sneak it. And I'm even gonna say a Sean Longstaff goal.
Oh yes, please.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be nice. Long range effort.
Yeah, I love it.
Even
I'd love him to score a free kick one day, because 100% of his free kicks have been absolutely woeful. And I love Sean Longstaff. He's genuinely one of my favourite Newcastle players, and I think he gets a tough time off supporters sometimes. But his free kicks are terrible.
Yeah. Little side question here: do you think he stays? I know I've not seen the press conference from Steve Bruce, but I think there might have been a question about Longstaff, obviously because his contract was out in the summer, and he was obviously heavily linked with Everton. Do you think he stays at Newcastle? Do you think he signs a new deal, or do you think he's gone in the summer?
I hope so.
Which Premier League clubs would be knocking for him? Like any better Premier League? Say Newcastle State.
Everton, apparently.
Do you think he could? Do you think
Rafa connection?
Rafa.
I can understand that, but is he better than Everton's midfield right now? I don't see. If he goes to Everton, he sits on the bench.
I think he can make them better. I think Rafa can make him a better player. If Rafa can get him back to playing the way he did in the last few months of Rafa's reign, up until he got injured at West Ham, if he can get that period of time, Sean Longstaff out of him, there's no reason why he can't get into Everton's team. If I'm honest,
I don't think he's anything better than what Everton have got. I really don't. But I still say, and I say this weekly on Newcastle Fans TV, me and Sam, I think, say it on a regular basis. He's getting played in the wrong position. For me, he should be battling it out with Miggy as a number 10. I've said he was a number 10 all the way through the 23s.
Yeah.
His best performance for Newcastle, in my opinion.
Bournemouth
4-1. And he got injured.
Such a shame he got injured. He was amazing.
Had an assist and scored, and was a real threat. Literally, obviously as a number 10, that's been his best performance. Obviously, the Man City game under Rafa, him and Isaac Hayden were absolutely phenomenal that night. They really, really were. But he was so dangerous as a number 10, and I just don't see why they don't play in that position more often. You look at Miggy. And Miggy, at the minute, when you're playing in that 5-3-2, and he's like a false number 8 or a false number 10 or whatever you want to call it, and you just think, let them both go at each other to start in that position behind a Callum Wilson, and put your St. Maximin and Fraser on either side, and then you've got Joe Willock as well, who wants to get in and get on the party. It just would make so much more sense, but I just think we'll never actually see that, which is a bit frustrating. But I like Sean Longstaff. I do. I agree with Sam. I do think he gets unfair criticism at times, but he needs to learn from his mistakes. He holds onto the ball far too long. And I mean, when I say far too long, I mean like a second and a half, 2 seconds. That needs to be cut down dramatically, because if you don't, you will concede goals. He nearly cost us a goal at Liverpool. He cost us a goal at Southampton away last season. He has got that in his locker. If he can sort out those silly errors, he maybe become a better player in that position. But I'd love to see him score tomorrow. I'm not confident tomorrow because we haven't got the best record at Vicarage Road. We really don't. I think we've got more chance of winning next week against Wolves, who just don't look anywhere near like the same team they were.
Well, it's going to be 1-1. It's been 1-1 every time we play.
Yeah,
always a draw.
I know, but I still think we've got more of a chance of winning next week than we have tomorrow. I don't see us winning tomorrow. I probably will. I'll just about agree with the guys. I'll go 1-1, but it would not surprise me if we don't win. If we lose tomorrow, it wouldn't surprise me, especially the fact Joe Linton probably starts on that left-hand side, because I want Fraser to start on the left.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
My heart says 2-1 win, but my head says 2-0 defeat.
Yeah, it's not looking positive.
I think we're going to get Dennis.
You know what? I've got a feeling if we do lose, we'll get Sissoko.
Oh,
I know.
Oh, we don't want that.
That's my reaction. Is that we get Sissoko that he barely ever scores, but it would not surprise me if he pops up and gets a goal against us tomorrow. But
he has the ability, and if like normally when players go back to their previous club, they're up for it. But does he have that temperament? I'm not so sure. But yeah,
remember when he first signed though, he looked an absolute beast, and then Pardew had a thing of playing in wide right, and you look really
that game against Chelsea on his home debut.
He was amazing.
Oh, he had Ashley Cole on toast.
Oh, unbelievable.
And for France, when he's warming up, when the camera zooms in, and then he goes, yeah, I lost respect for him then after that.
Definitely.
But that's three draws, 1 win, and 1 defeat. So you enjoy the game, Peach, and anyone going to it tomorrow. I think we'll bring the night to a close. Thanks a million for joining us, Johnny and Sam. Best of luck with the future shows. We'll sync up, I'm sure, at some point again in the future. And all the best. And thanks everyone for watching tonight.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Thanks. Good night.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Good luck.